The storm seemed to never end. Lightning, like burning serpents, tore through the dark sky, their blinding flashes briefly illuminating the figures slithering along the slippery streets. The wind howled like a lost soul, and the rain pounded against the window panes like 1,000 ghostly fingers. The creaking gates of the old mansion slammed shut once again. It stood on the edge of the village, almost hidden among the thick trees, deep within a forgotten park that stretched all the way up the hill. The locals called it the Black Labyrinth. Its towering stone walls and windows, which often glowed faintly with eerie light, fed the rumors and fears surrounding its long-dead inhabitants. For years, the mansion had stood empty. Yet now, after so many years of silence, someone had returned to it. Evelyn Harper, a young woman with a history as murky as the mansion's past, stood before the imposing gates. She wasn't exactly sure what had brought her here. It wasn't the allure of the mansion itself, nor the stories that had been passed down through generations. No, there was something deeper, an inexplicable pull. Perhaps it was the letter she had received just weeks ago, unsigned, the cryptic words haunting her thoughts. Asterisk, come to the house, Evelyn. The truth you seek is here. You belong here, as we once did. Asterisk. Evelyn had never known her family. Raised in an orphanage, her only connection to the world was the haunting dream she had since childhood, a mansion, its halls echoing with whispers of forgotten names, a crystal chandelier swaying in the darkness, casting ghostly shadows on the walls. And now, standing at the gates, Evelyn felt it, like a cold breath on her neck, a presence that seemed to acknowledge her arrival. The gates creaked open slowly, as if inviting her inside. With a hesitant breath, she stepped forward. The path leading to the mansion was narrow, winding through trees that seemed to close in around her, their twisted branches clawing at the sky like skeletal hands. The rain had soaked through her coat, but Evelyn hardly noticed. The strange pull was growing stronger, urging her forward. As she approached the mansion, the imposing facade loomed larger. Its high windows were dark, yet she could feel the weight of countless eyes watching her. The front door stood ajar, a faint glow emanating from within, casting long shadows across the stone steps. She entered without a second thought, as if something, or someone, was guiding her every step. The interior of the mansion was both magnificent and eerie. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceilings, their delicate prisms casting faint, spectral rainbows on the walls. The furniture, though covered in dust and cobwebs, seemed to have been left in a hurry. The air was thick with the scent of decay, but also something else, a faint perfume that lingered in the air, like the last breath of a forgotten dream. Evelyn moved cautiously through the halls, her footsteps echoing off the marble floors. She had heard the stories. The mansion had once been home to the enigmatic Blackwood family, a lineage shrouded in mystery and tragedy. Whispers of dark rituals and tragic deaths had followed them throughout history. But what of the letter? What was it that called her here? She reached the grand staircase, its polished banister gleaming in the faint light. At the top of the stairs, a door stood slightly ajar. Beyond it, a soft glow beckoned her forward. She couldn't resist. The door creaked open, revealing a room bathed in pale light. In the center of the room stood a large, ornate mirror, its silver frame twisted into intricate, almost unnatural shapes. The mirror reflected nothing but darkness, yet Evelyn felt drawn to it. As she stepped closer, the air grew colder, the temperature dropping by several degrees. Her breath came out in frosty clouds, and the light from the chandelier flickered, casting shadows that seemed to shift on their own. And then, she saw it. A figure in the mirror, faint at first, like a wisp of smoke, but slowly becoming clearer. A woman, her face hidden in the shadows, her eyes glowing with a strange, otherworldly light. She reached out from the depths of the mirror, her hand moving as if to touch Evelyn's face. Evelyn froze, her heart racing. She wanted to scream, to run, but her feet felt rooted to the floor. The woman's hand inched closer, her eyes never leaving Evelyn's. And then, the mirror shattered. The shards of glass rained down in an eerie silence, the sound of shattering crystal hanging in the air like a curse. Evelyn stumbled back, her heart hammering in her chest. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze, the air, the atmosphere, even the faintest breath of wind. Then, as if waking from a dream, the room began to pulse with an unnatural energy. The mirror had shattered, yet there was no reflection of the room's destruction, no jagged fragments on the floor, no splintered glass scattered around. Instead, there was only darkness, utter, suffocating darkness that swirled like a living thing, its tendrils creeping along the edges of her vision. A voice, faint but clear, whispered through the shadows. Asterisk asterisk, you should not have come, asterisk asterisk. Evelyn's body froze. Her breath caught in her throat as the darkness began to swirl faster, thickening in the air. She tried to back away, but her legs refused to move. The pull was stronger now, irresistible. The door she had come through slammed shut with a deafening thud, trapping her inside. Suddenly, the temperature dropped further, and a low growl reverberated through the walls, as if some ancient creature was stirring deep beneath the mansion's foundations. Evelyn's mind raced as she searched the room, trying to make sense of the invisible terror closing in on her. She needed to find a way out. And then, she saw it. At the far end of the room, hidden behind the remnants of a broken bookshelf, was a small door, narrow and old, its wooden frame warped with age. It seemed insignificant, but the moment her eyes locked on it, the darkness seemed to recoil, pulling back just enough to allow her to glimpse a sliver of light beyond. Without thinking, Evelyn ran toward it, her fingers trembling as she gripped the cold metal handle. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow, winding staircase leading down into a cavernous darkness. Asterisk asterisk, you must not go down, asterisk asterisk. The voice was louder now, more insistent, echoing from all directions, yet there was no one in sight. Evelyn hesitated, her fear threatening to paralyze her. But the pull was undeniable. She had to know the truth, had to understand what had brought her here, what had been waiting for her. She stepped down the stairs, one foot after another, the steps creaking under her weight. The air grew thicker with each descent, and the cold that had begun to settle around her now felt like ice crawling beneath her skin. The walls, lined with old portraits, seemed to watch her with hollow, dead eyes. Their faces were faded, their expressions twisted with grief, or perhaps fear. The stairwell led to a door, heavy and wrought with iron bars, but the lock had long since rusted away. With a slight push, it gave way, groaning in protest. Beyond it lay an enormous chamber, its walls adorned with forgotten symbols and ancient runes. The floor was covered in dust, and the faint glow of phosphorescent mushrooms clung to the far corners of the room, casting an eerie light over everything. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, and upon it rested an object that made Evelyn's blood run cold. A book. The cover was dark, almost black, and as Evelyn approached, she noticed that it seemed to absorb the light, drawing it into the pages like a void. The air around it was thick with the scent of old leather, and the whispers in the room seemed to grow louder, more desperate. Asterisk asterisk, do not touch it, asterisk asterisk. Evelyn's hand trembled as she reached out, drawn to it against her will. There was something ancient, something powerful in that book. Her fingers brushed against the cover, and the world seemed to tilt. The room trembled, the walls groaning as if they were alive. A rush of cold air filled the chamber, and for a moment, Evelyn thought she saw figures, shadows, moving in the corner of her vision, but when she turned to look, there was nothing. Just the book, sitting on its pedestal, waiting. She pulled it closer, and with a deep breath, she opened it. The pages were filled with strange symbols, written in a language Evelyn didn't recognize. But as her eyes scanned the pages, they seemed to shift, the ink rearranging itself into familiar words. Asterisk, the Blackwood bloodline calls to you, Evelyn. The curse cannot be broken without you. You are the key. You must give in to what lies beneath the mansion. Asterisk. The words burned into her mind like a brand, and suddenly, the room was no longer still. The walls began to move, shifting like liquid stone, and the shadows that had once been distant figures now reached out, stretching toward her with long, grasping hands. A voice, soft but cold, spoke from behind her. Asterisk asterisk, you've opened it. Now, you must finish what was started, asterisk asterisk. Evelyn spun around. There, standing in the doorway, was a figure. A woman, her face pale as death, with hollow eyes that gleamed with an unnatural light. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her lips curled into a faint, almost sorrowful smile. Asterisk asterisk, I was waiting for you, Evelyn, asterisk asterisk. The woman stepped forward, and the shadows in the room seemed to pulse, as if reacting to her presence. Asterisk asterisk, you are not just a visitor here. You were always meant to return. The Blackwood curse is yours, and it will claim you, just as it claimed all those who came before you, asterisk asterisk. Evelyn stepped back, her heart pounding in her chest. The figure was closing in, and the shadows were growing darker, more tangible. She had to escape, but her legs felt like lead, her body refusing to obey. The book, she had to close the book, stop the cycle. But as her fingers moved to shut the pages, the woman's voice echoed in her ears one last time. Asterisk asterisk, it's too late. The mansion has already claimed you, asterisk asterisk. Evelyn's heart raced, her breath coming in shallow gasps as the woman's words echoed in her mind. The mansion has already claimed you. Her body felt heavier with every passing second, the shadows pressing in around her like a suffocating fog. She was trapped. The book in her hands seemed to throb with a life of its own, its pages vibrating under her touch as if it were reacting to the presence of the woman, the entity that stood before her. But she couldn't think about the book now, she needed to move. She needed to get away. Who are you? Evelyn croaked, her voice trembling as the woman drew closer, her footsteps eerily silent on the dusty floor. The woman's lips parted in a faint, almost pitying smile. I am the one who waited. I am the one who has waited for you to return. To complete the circle. Evelyn's mind raced. The Blackwood family. She had heard the name before, through whispers, through the rumors that had followed the mansion for centuries. The family that disappeared under mysterious circumstances, their bloodline said to be cursed, doomed to return in some form. But how could this woman, this thing, be part of it? Return? Evelyn asked, her voice barely a whisper, her legs still rooted to the floor. I've never been here before. I don't even know what this place is. The woman's eyes gleamed with something ancient, something hungry. Ah, but you have. You just don't remember. Your soul has been tied to this place since before your birth, Evelyn. The blood of the Blackwood family runs through your veins. You are their last heir. The words hit Evelyn like a blow. The letter, the strange pull to this mansion, everything was beginning to fall into place, but it made no sense. She couldn't be part of this cursed family. She was nothing, asterisk nothing asterisk, but an orphan. No, she said, shaking her head, backing away as the shadows continued to creep forward. This is a mistake. I don't belong here. The woman's smile widened. It is no mistake, dear. The mansion has chosen you. It will never let you go. The shadows in the room responded to her words, writhing like serpents. They crept up the walls and slithered across the floor, gathering into shapes, forming grotesque, half-human figures. They had no faces, only dark silhouettes with jagged, shifting limbs. Evelyn felt their cold, clammy presence closing in from all sides. A low, guttural laugh echoed through the chamber, reverberating off the stone walls. Evelyn stumbled backward, her eyes darting between the woman and the grotesque shadows. No, she shouted, struggling to regain control. I don't want this. I don't want any part of it. But the woman's voice was calm, almost soothing in its cadence. You cannot run from what you are, Evelyn. You never could. The mansion has always waited for the Blackwood heir to return. And now, it is time. The shadows began to move with purpose, surrounding her. Evelyn's heart thundered in her chest, her hands shaking as she held the book tighter, trying to distance herself from the figures closing in. "Stop," she cried, her voice cracking. "What do you want from me?" The woman's eyes glimmered darkly. "We want you to finish what was started. The curse must be completed. The bloodline must be sealed. And you, Evelyn, are the final piece." The words seemed to echo through her mind like a death knell. She wanted to scream, to run, to escape, but the shadows were everywhere now, their cold touch seeping into her skin, making her limbs feel heavy and numb. She thought of the letter. The cryptic message, the pull to the mansion. It was all connected to this. To her. And it was too late to escape. The woman stepped forward, her form shifting, as if she were made of the same shifting darkness. Evelyn tried to back away, but her body refused to move. The woman's presence was like an anchor, rooting her in place. "You can't escape," the woman whispered, her voice now a soft, coaxing melody. "You never could. The mansion owns you, Evelyn. You belong to it now." A low hum began to resonate through the air, vibrating the floor beneath her feet. Evelyn's vision blurred, and the shadows seemed to expand, consuming the room. It was as if the mansion itself was alive, breathing, pulsing, waiting. And then, the woman reached out. Her fingers were long, pale, like the limbs of a corpse, and they brushed against Evelyn's cheek with an unnatural coldness. Suddenly, the room seemed to collapse inward. The air grew thick, oppressive. The book in Evelyn's hands began to burn, the pages turning of their own accord, each one faster than the last. Words appeared, glowing with an eerie light, carving themselves into her mind. Asterisk, the curse of the Blackwood bloodline cannot be undone. The heir must sacrifice all that is left, must give themselves to the mansion to end the suffering. Asterisk. Evelyn gasped for air, her body shaking uncontrollably as the words seemed to burn into her very soul. Her mind was a blur, a haze of confusion and terror. She could feel her memories slipping away, her identity fading like a dying dream. The woman leaned in closer, her face now just inches from Evelyn's, her cold breath brushing against her ear. "The mansion must feed, Evelyn. It must claim its heir. And you, my dear, are its feast." With a final scream, Evelyn slammed the book shut, but it was too late. The shadows erupted in a violent rush, enveloping her in a suffocating darkness. The last thing she heard before the world around her collapsed was the woman's chilling laughter, echoing through the black void. The darkness consumed Evelyn completely. It swallowed her whole, dragging her into an abyss where time and space no longer existed. Her body felt weightless, drifting through an endless void, her mind screaming but unable to escape. And then, as quickly as it had come, the darkness vanished. Evelyn's eyes snapped open, but she was no longer in the chamber. The cold stone walls were gone, replaced by an overwhelming sense of stillness, a suffocating quiet that pressed in on her from all sides. She was standing, though she didn't know how, in the center of a vast, ancient hall. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and forgotten memories, and the floor beneath her was polished, glistening as though it had been recently cleaned. The light in the room was dim, coming from somewhere high above, but it flickered like a dying flame. As her senses began to return, Evelyn realized she was not alone. The woman, the one who had been haunting her every step, stood in front of her. But now, she appeared different. Her features were sharper, more defined, her eyes gleaming with a terrifying hunger, yet her face was calm, almost serene. She was dressed in an elaborate gown, its black fabric shimmering like the surface of a dark lake. "Where am I?" Evelyn's voice was weak, hollow, as if she had spoken for the first time in centuries. The woman smiled, her lips curving into something like satisfaction, but there was no warmth in it. "You are where you belong, Evelyn. You are home." Evelyn looked rising in her chest. This isn't home. This is the Blackwood estate, the woman finished for her voice echoing with a strange sense of finality. The heart of your bloodline, the place that has awaited you for centuries. You have returned, and now, your purpose is complete. Evelyn's heart lurched as the reality of the situation began to sink in. I don't belong here. I don't know who you are, or what you want from me, but this isn't my home. She stepped back, her eyes darting around the vast, empty hall. The walls stretched upwards, vanishing into an impenetrable darkness. There were no doors, no windows, no escape. The woman watched her with an unsettling calm. But you do belong here, Evelyn. You always have. The mansion calls to its own. You were born to carry the weight of the Blackwood curse. All the others before you, they failed. They didn't understand. But you, my dear, are different. Evelyn's body was trembling. Her mind was racing, piecing together the fragments of everything she had experienced. The letter, the strange pull to the mansion, the book, the shadows, and now, the woman before her, claiming she was the last heir. But nothing made sense. Why me? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Why was I chosen? The woman took a slow step forward, her presence overwhelming, suffocating. Because you are the one who will end it. The curse is not just a curse, Evelyn. It is a bond. The Blackwood bloodline is bound to this place, tied to it by ancient rituals that no mortal can break. Until the last heir is claimed, until the bloodline is sealed with the mansion's will, there can be no peace. The woman's eyes glowed faintly in the dark, her expression softening with something that could almost be mistaken for pity. But now, Evelyn, now that you've accepted your place, the cycle will finally be complete. Evelyn's breath hitched. Complete? You mean I? The woman nodded, her smile widening. Yes, my dear. You will become part of the mansion. As all Blackwoods before you did. The mansion will live on, feeding on your essence, your life. And in return, the curse will be broken, and the Blackwood name will finally be at rest. Evelyn's blood ran cold. She could feel the weight of it now, the oppressive presence of the mansion, as though it were a living thing, feeding on her fear. She had no way of knowing how much time had passed since she first stepped into the mansion, but she knew one thing for certain, there was no escape. The woman extended a hand toward her. Come, Evelyn. Take my hand. Embrace your legacy. Evelyn felt her feet moving of their own accord, as if the mansion itself was pushing her forward. Her fingers brushed against the woman's hand, and a violent surge of energy shot through her, sending a shockwave of pain through her chest. Her body froze as she suddenly understood. The mansion wasn't just a house. It was a prison. It had waited for her to return because it had never let her go. The curse was real. She could feel it now, deep in her bones, the mansion owned her. And as the last heir, she had no choice but to fulfill the bloodline's final, horrific purpose. The woman's laughter, soft and triumphant, filled the hall. Now, you will understand, Evelyn. Now, you are part of the mansion, its soul, its heart, its endless hunger. You are home. Evelyn felt the darkness begin to wrap around her, pulling her into the walls, into the very fabric of the mansion itself. It was as if the floor beneath her feet opened up, and she fell, falling deeper and deeper, beyond the reach of time, beyond the world she had known. The echoes of the woman's voice grew faint as Evelyn's own scream was swallowed by the mansion's insatiable depths. And just like that, Evelyn Harper, the last of the Blackwood bloodline, was no longer a person. She was part of the house, part of the curse. The mansion had claimed her. The mansion had claimed them all. The end.